Good morning. Namaskar. Let us begin our class with a prayer. This is from Sri Krishna Karnamritam. Sri Krishna Karnamritam is a Vaishnava scripture. This nice prayer to Lord Hari to protect us. It's on page 172 of the Universal Prayers, the book. The last one on that page, 172. Give me a second. Good. Om Tamasi Ravirevodyan Majjata Mamburashau Plava Eva Trishitanam Swaduvarshiva Megha Nidire Vidananam Dirgativra Mayanam Vishageva Kushalam No Datamayatu Shaurihi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Just like the sun flashing forth light into one shrouded in darkness. Tamasi, one who is enveloped in darkness. Raviri Udyan, Udyan Ravi. When the sun rises, he provides light. Majjata Mamburashau, like the boat rescuing a person sinking in the sea, giving help when needed. Majjata Mamburasho Plava Iva. Plava means a boat. Trishitanam Swaduvarshiva Megha, like the cloud showering forth its refreshing waters on the thirsty. Trishita means thirsty people. Water is essential. At the time, water is provided. Idiriva vidhānoktāḥ. Vidhāna means those who don't have money, dhana. And to such a very poor person, if you give money, wealth, dirgativra mayanam bishagiva. Bishak means a doctor. A doctor provides relief, but is sent to relieve long suffering. Patient suffering long from diseases. Relief is given. In the same way, Kushalam no datamayatu shaurihi. May the Supreme Lord come and grant to us peace and joy and harmony in our lives. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Now let us continue with the remaining few verses of the 17th chapter. Last time we did shloka number 23. These last 5-6 verses in this chapter 17, from 23 to the end of the chapter, 28, shloka 28. Bhagavan Sri Krishna describes a very important topic. Om Tat Sat. So let me chant shloka 23. Om Tat Saditi Niriddesho Brahmanastrividha Smrtaha Brahmanastena Vedascha Yajñāscha Vihita Pura. Different editors, translators have translated this in a slightly different ways, this shloka. Om Tat Sat iti nirdeshaha brahmanaha, of Brahman. Nirdesha means description, specification. 3 aspects of the Supreme Reality Brahman, Om Tat Sat, have been described in the ancient time, at the time of creation by the Lord himself. Trividaha nirdesha smritaha. 3 specifications, descriptions of Brahman, Brahmanaha, Om Tat Sat have been described. Tena Brahmanaha Vedaha Yajñāscha Vihitaha. Vihitaha means Nirmitaha, created. The Vedas, which contain all knowledge, and Yajñaha, sacrifices. We shall see the importance of sacrifice, why sacrifice is included here, Yajña. And Brahmanaha, knowers of Brahman. They were Vihitaha, they were created with this description, Om Tat Saditi, Pura, at the beginning of creation. Now, the conventional practice is when we begin any action, we should begin the action by saying Om. When we conclude any action, we should conclude the action by saying Om Tat Sat, Om Tat Sat. That is the instruction. So what is the meaning of this? What is the purpose of saying Om and Om Tat Sat before and after any action is to be understood. So let us study the remaining 3 prescriptions. Om Tat Sat. 3 slokas are there describing the significance of Om, Tat and Sat. 3 ways of referring to the supreme reality, Brahman. So we go to sloka number 24. tasmādomityudāhṛtya yajñadānatapaḥkriyāḥ pravartante vidhānoktāḥ satataṃ brahmavādinām. 3 actions have been mentioned repeatedly in Gita. They are yajña, dana, tapas. In this chapter, 17th chapter, we studied 3 kinds of yajña. Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic yajña. 3 kinds of dana. Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic dana, charity. And 3 kinds of tapas, austerity. Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic, and also austerities of the body, shariram tapaha, austerity of speech, vāngmayam tapaha, and austerities of mind, manasam tapaha. All that we studied earlier in this 17th chapter. Whenever we perform any of these actions, yajña, dana, tapas, we have to say Om. tasmādomityudāhṛtya. Pronouncing, uttering, chanting the syllable Om, yajñadānatapaḥkriyāḥ, pravartante. These 3 actions, yajña, dana, tapas, have to be begun, have to be done. Satataṃ brahmavādinām. After uttering the syllable Om, those who maintain the doctrine of Brahman, Brahmavādin or Brahmavādini, feminine, means a person who has full faith in Vedas, in Brahman, supreme reality Brahman, and strives to experience one's own divine nature as Brahman. Vedas, Upanishads say, you are that. Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi, Mahavakyas. You have heard about them. So those who strive to experience this, Aham Brahmasmi, or Tattvamasi, they are called Brahmavādins. Many people reject this one. They don't believe in this Brahman or anything. As opposed to them, those who strive to experience this truth directly in our own lives. They are called Brahmavādins. Those people, all the action that they do, yajñadānatapaḥkriyāḥ, vidhānoktāḥ, as ordained in the scriptures. All actions we do should be done according to the procedure prescribed in the scriptures that we saw in the previous 16th chapter. Last sloka of 16th chapter, sloka number 24, There Bhagavan had said that whatever action you do, you should do it by ascertaining the proper procedure from the scriptures. May the scriptures be your standard, pramana. That we saw in the 16th chapter, last sloka. Tasmāt shastram pramanam te karya akarya vyavasthitau. What is to be done? Karyam. Akarya, what should not be done? Certain actions we should not do. Prohibited actions. In deciding which action to be done, which should not be done, may Shastra give you the guidance. Shastram te pramanam karya akarya vyavasthitau. And then, whenever you do any action that is required to be done, karyam, we have to do it according to the procedure described in the scriptures. Shastra vidhānoktāḥ jnātva. Knowing the procedure prescribed in the Shastras, karma kartumeharhasi. You have to perform all your actions in this life. Iha means here in this life or in this world. That was the earlier instructions. So when you do any action, especially yajñadānatapaḥ, then we have to say Untitled Om we should say, because it reminds us of Brahman, the supreme reality. Any action we do should be done by reminding ourselves of the divine presence in all and everything. The action itself is an offering to the Lord. Devotees say, whatever I do, I am offering it to the Lord as my humble offering, to practice detachment from karma phala, and also to express our devotion to God we offer, not that He needs our actions. That is Om. We have to say Om at the beginning of any action that we do. That is sloka number 24. Now, Tat, second Om, Tat Sat, three specifications, descriptions of Brahman. Go to sloka number 25. There, the significance of Tat has been described. 25. Tadityāname sandhāya phalam yajñatapaḥkriyāḥ dānakriyāśca vividhā kriyante moksha kaṅkshibihi. Let us see the last word, the second line, moksha kaṅkshibihi. Moksha means liberation. Akanksha means desire. Moksha kaṅkshin is a person who desires liberation, mumukshu, who wants liberation. By those people who desire liberation, that means all of us who are striving for liberation or God realization or sakshatkara. We are striving for that. For such people, moksha kaṅkshibi by such people, tad iti, saying the word tad, important thing. Why? We'll understand. Second thing we have to keep in mind when we do any action is phalam anabhisandhaya. We should not hanker or be attached to the fruits of our action. Doing the action prescribed in the Shastras, as prescribed in the scriptures, that is our duty. That has been stressed throughout the Gita. A little later, we will go back to third chapter about this. What are the actions we have to do? How to do them? Very important segment of Gita. Right now, phalam anabhisandhaya, without expecting or being attached to the fruit of action. Whenever we perform action, we should do it in the most unselfish way, in the largest possible context, not just for me, for my benefit only. So whenever when I do some action, I should not say what is in it for me, in what benefit I will get from it, how do I benefit from this action. That should not be my question or motivation. How does this work benefit all and everybody? Then I will also be benefited. Just not for myself only, but in the larger interest as an offering to the divine. With that attitude, you have to perform action. Phalam anabhisandhaya, without expecting without thought of rewards, he says. Palamanabhisandhaya tad iti, saying the word tat, om and tat. Yajñadānatapaḥkriyāḥ, dana kriyāscha kriyante. Yajna, dana, tapas. All these actions have to be done in this way by chanting tat, and then without expecting or being attached to the fruits of action, and by those who are desirous of liberation, moksha kankshibhi kriyante. These actions are done by those desirous of liberation. Selfish people do in their own interest. They don't worry about offering to the divine. They don't worry about the consequences of their action upon other people, animals, plants, and nature. They are not concerned about it. They just do it for them. This is good for me. I get benefits, so I do it. It may be good for me, that action, but if it causes inconvenience to other beings, then I should think about it. We'll come to that later in the 18th chapter. Several things have to be considered before performing any action. We have to consider the consequences, anubandham, of my action. How does it affect me now? It may be beneficial at the right moment, this moment, but later on it may not be good for me. I may realize, why did I do this one? It appeared to be good, beneficial at that time, but it may not be good in the long run. So we have to keep that long run perspective in mind when performing any action. Anubandham kshayam. Kshaya means whatever action we do, inevitably some loss will be there. We cannot do any action without incurring some loss. Loss of material, loss of energy, loss of time, effort. All these things are lost when you do any action. When I'm speaking, I'm spending time, energy. So to save time and energy, if I don't speak, then the action remains undone. We have to do the action. But loss is inevitable. So we have to weigh, is the loss that is inevitable consistent with the gain that I'm going to get? That cost-benefit analysis has to be done. Whenever I do any action, some loss will be there. Loss of energy. If we prepare rice, then rice is good. If you have to eat rice, you have to boil it and prepare it. You can't eat raw rice. So when you boil rice, then what happens? You lose several things. What do you lose? You lose the energy, gas or electricity, and rice itself will be lost. Water will be spent, time will be spent, energy will be spent. To save all those things, if I don't cook rice, then I have no rice to eat. I go hungry. So in that case, cooking rice, though it involves losses, is justifiable in view of the gain that it provides. Hunger is satisfied, nourishment is given. That way, anubandham kshami himsan, anapekshata paurusham, to have the ability, energy, the knowledge required to complete this action, bring it to a logical conclusion. That has to be thought before beginning the action. Mohādarabhyate karma yattattamasamuchyate. Such a karma which is done without considering these essential factors, that is tamasic karma. You'll study that in the next chapter. So whenever you do any action, yajñadānatapa, or any action in general, by those who are desirous of liberation, moksha kankshibhi, they have to do it, keep doing two things, keeping two things in mind. One is phalam anabhisandhaya, without expecting selfish benefit for oneself only. Others will benefit, then I will also be benefit in an unselfish way. Secondly, taditi anabhis, taditi udāhṛtya. Om, tat. Two things. Tat represents Brahman. In what way does tat represent Brahman? The pronoun tat means that, faraway object, as opposed to its pronoun idam. The idam means this object. Ayam purushaha, this man sitting next to me. Tat purusha, that man sitting far away. So now when we refer to Brahman in the Vedantic context, we use the word tat to indicate Brahman. Why Brahman is called tat, far away? Is he far away? No. He is the closest to us. He is our very self. And there's nothing closer than Brahman to us. But our daily experience, in our experience, we think God is far away. An ordinary devotee, Sri Ramakrishna describes one kind of devotee who says, God is sitting in a throne above in the sky, in the heaven. Far away, I am here. So that distance is created in our minds. Actually, it is not there. It's the closest thing to us. So in convention, when we say use the word Tat, we refer to Brahman. We remind ourselves Brahman of Brahman. When we perform any action, so we should say Tat. Okay. That is Om Tat. Now we go to shloka number 26. Tat Sat has to be Om Tat Sat. Three descriptions. Sat has to be also said. So that is explained in shloka number 26. Sadbhave sadhubhave cha sadidyetat prayujyate prashaste karmani tatha sachabdah partha yujyate. Sadbhave sadhubhave. Bhava means attitude. When we perform any action, we should have the proper attitude in our minds. What is the proper attitude for any action? This action I am doing is going to be offered to the divine, symbol offering. This is my worship of God. This is done in the interest of all and everybody, not just my personal benefit. These are the proper attitudes to keep in mind when performing any action. Sadbhava. Here it says the word Sat is used to denote existence and righteousness. Sadhu bhava. Sadhu means righteous. When we say a person is a sadhu, means a nice person, a sattvic person, does not do any evil actions. His thoughts are pure, his speech is pure, and his actions are right. Such a person is called a sadhu, sadhu purusha. Purusha means man or woman. There is no gender distinction there. Sadhu bhavi, with this attitude of holiness, righteousness, any action should be done. Not with tamasic attitude, improper attitude, they spoil the whole thing. Sadbhave. The word Sat is used to denote existence and righteousness. Sat means existence. The word Sat means, or Satyam means, that which exists all the time, no beginning, no end, eternal, and no change. Nirvikara. If something changes, that means it is not Sat. You can't depend upon today night like this, tomorrow it is appears something else. Like people change all the time. They have one kind of attitude towards you today, and tomorrow they will have a different attitude towards you. So that is not Sat. Sat means eternal reality, eternal unchanging reality. That is Brahman. Sat represents Brahman because Brahman is always existent. Sat. No beginning, no end, and no change. So this we studied earlier. In the second chapter of the Gita, there is one shloka which describes the nature of Brahman as Sat. That is shloka number 20, chapter 2. Long time ago we studied. You might refer to it now. There, Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, describing the eternal reality. Najayate mriyate va kadachit nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyaha 220. Ajaha nityaha shashvata ayam puranaha nahanyate hanyamane sharire. Sharire hanyamane atmana hanyate. When the body inevitably dies, all bodies die, not only human bodies. Animal bodies, plant bodies, earth is also a body, it dies. Some billions of years it will be there, then it will not be there. Sun also dies. Whole the solar system go, whole galaxy also disintegrates and merges into some black hole, become nothing. That's the fate of all things that exist. As opposed to that, The ultimate reality, Brahman, is Sat, always there, no change, no beginning, najayate namriyate, no end. Remembering that one, remember that one, this we should say the word Sat, Sadbhave, Sadbhave cha. The word Sat is used to denote existence and righteousness. Sadbhava, Sadbhava, existence, Sat, always there, no change, eternal. Prashaste karmani, in all righteous, holy actions. Improper actions, impure actions, we should not do at all. You should not think impure thoughts. We should not say impure words, and we should not do impure action. That we know earlier. Whenever you do any action, prashaste karmani, in good action, we have to say the word Sat to remind ourselves of the ultimate reality, Brahman. Brahman is called Sat. Tata Sat Shabdaha Partha Yujjate. It is used to denote a noble deed. Prashasta karma means a noble deed. So then we should say Om Tat Sat. All the three have been described. Purpose of saying these three things have been described. Om Tat. Three aspects of ultimate reality, Brahman. Om represents all of reality. God with form, God without form, Sakara, Nirakara, Nirguna Brahman, Sakara, Saguna Brahman, all of these is all represented by the word Om, one common syllable. Tasya vachaka pranavaha. Like this, there is one sutra in Patanjali Yoga Sutra. We studied, some of you studied that one. The sound representation of the ultimate reality is Om. Pranava means Om. So Om, that's three things we have to say. Now, it is further explained in verse number 27. Yajñe tapasi dāne ca sthitis saditi chochyate karma chaiva tadarthiyam sadityeva vidhīyate. Translation is also, does Sat denote devotion to sacrifice? Sat tapasi dane yajñe cha. In tapas, dana, yajna, three things that we are required to do. We have to remind ourselves sthitihi, that is our attitude towards these activities. Saditi cha uchyate. Sat also denotes devotion to sacrifice. Sacrifice, yajñadānatapaḥkriyāḥ, to all the three. Tadarthiyam. Tadarthiyam, that means Brahman or God. Tadarthiyam, for the sake of the Lord. Tadarthya means Ishwarartham. Earlier we studied in chapter 3 and other chapters that any action that we do should be done for the sake of the Lord, not for my sake, or for the sake of the whole of creation, other people, animals, all are included, not just for oneself. Tadarthya means for the sake of Ishwarartham, for the sake of the Lord. All actions have to be done, yajñadānatapaḥ, and everything that we do. Yajñe tapasi dāne ca sthitihi. Sariti cha uchyate. Sat denotes devotion to sacrifice, penance, and gift giving. Yajñadānatapaḥ. So too, the work performing all these is styled Sat. Any action that we do should be done with the, but saying Sat. Sat means existence, or Brahman, all the time existing, no change, no beginning, no end. That is ultimate reality. That is the significance of Sat. Om Tat Sat. Here it says, the commentary Shankara says, devotion to the act of sacrifice, penance, and gift giving, yajñadānatapaḥ, is also styled Sat by scholars. So too, work promoting these or work dedicated to God. Ish tadarthiyam means dedicated to the Lord. Everything we do should be dedicated to God. This Sri Krishna has given this instruction repeatedly in the earlier chapters. Notably, chapter 9, sloka 27. Whatever you do, offer it to me. Yat karoshi tat kurusha madarpanam. Arpana means offering. So any action should be done, that we do should be done tadarthiyam, for the sake of the Lord, not for my sake only. So to work promoting this or work dedicated to God, whose three designations, Om Tat Sat, constitute the present context, is again designated Sat. The idea is that non-sattvic, unmeritorious acts of sacrifice, penance, and gift giving, etc., become meritorious and sattvic when they are preceded by the faithful utterance of these designations of Brahman. When you perform any action, if we dedicate it to the Lord by saying Om Tat Sat, do it as an offering, as worship, even an ordinary action becomes very beneficial and extraordinary. Just like giving something to somebody or saying something about God, talking or doing some other action, if we do, it is an ordinary action otherwise. But when it is done with this attitude, saying Om Tat Sat, as an offering to the divine tadarthiyam, then it becomes a act of worship, dedication. That's beneficial to spiritual seekers. Otherwise, we get the worldly benefit. But with this added dimension of spirituality to every action becomes an act of worship, tapas. So the significance of this is, whenever we are required to do any action, big or small, ordinary, routine, most of the time, most of us do only routine actions. We don't do great deeds, ordinary people. Any routine action that we do, if we do it in this way, as described, becomes an act of worship and becomes a spiritual practice and takes us closer to God. If you do the same action without this attitude, then it just to produce the result. No spiritual progress is made. So we should take advantage of all actions and do it as worship, as offering. Then we are making spiritual progress. We are moving towards God. Every word that we say is a step towards God, if we do it as an offering to God. Otherwise, simply chattering something, then it's a waste of time and energy. But if you do this talking as an act of worship, only pure things have to be said, truth has to be said, then it becomes a spiritual practice and takes us closer to God. That is why whenever you do any action, we should remind the results of this by saying Om Tat Sat. That is the significance of saying Om Tat Sat. At the end of every class, you hear me saying Om Tat Sat. That is the significance. That is the end of that topic. Now, the last sloka in chapter 17 is very important. Let us do that one. Sloka 28. Ashraddhaya hutam dattam tapastaptam kritam chayat asadit yuchyate partha nachatat pretya no iha. Any action that is done with an improper attitude, expecting fruits of action for oneself, that is not beneficial either here or in the hereafter. Does not help us in this world, does not help us to do spiritual progress. So let us read 28. Ashraddhaya hutam dattam tapam. Taptam. Huta means homa that has been done, any sacrifice that has been done. Datta means something that has been given, dana that has been given, charity. Taptam tapaha means any austerity that is done. Tapas in our context means doing japa, meditation, worship of God, study of scriptures. All these are tapas. In a different context, tapas means going to the forest, staying there and in a hermitage all day, all night, and meditating under a tree from early sunrise to sunset, like the ancient rishis used to do that one. That's a different level of tapas that we cannot do. For us, tapas means doing these simple spiritual practices, daily repetition of God's name, some simple worship, study of some scripture like Bhagavad Gita or the Gospel or some appropriate scripture, and reminding ourselves that every time I do something, it's an offering to God, worship of God, doing all actions as worship of God with a proper, pure attitude, offering it to the divine. This way, our daily life consists of all activities done as tapas. Without this attitude, ashraddhaya hutam dattam taptam tapah. Without Shraddha, earlier in the chapter began with the definition of Shraddha. There, the earlier first two slokas we studied, Shraddha means one's innermost attitude, what a person essentially is. Shraddha mayo yam purushaha, in the earlier sloka it came. A person is what is Shraddha is. Shraddha means a person's innermost attitude. How a person approaches life. How does a person do all actions, speaking, thinking, other actions? With what attitude? That essential feature, characteristic of a person is what a person is. That what makes a person what he is. When we say a person is sattvic person, when we say about somebody, that means all his actions are sattvic, his speech is sattvic, his thoughts are sattvic, and such a person is a sattvic person. Essential characteristic of such a person is sattvic attitude. So that is Shraddha, essential feature of a person, the essential character of a person. Ashraddhaya, without that proper attitude, any yajñadānatapaḥ that we do, kritam chayat, asat iti uchyate, that is called asat. That means it is not useful. It's a fruitless kind of activity. We spend so much money, energy, time, and everything in doing something. If you do it in the improper way, no good result is produced, neither here nor in the hereafter. Useless, waste of time and energy, waste of precious time. Time is the most precious resource. See, human life has a limited span, and within limited span, we have to accomplish this task that we have set ourselves as our goal, moving towards God realization. You don't have infinite time. So every moment is precious in our life. We have to use every moment carefully by doing the right actions, thinking right thoughts, and saying right speech. Otherwise, precious time will be lost. Time is a non-renewable resource. Some of the resources are renewable. If you waste water, more water, the water will go back to the earth eventually and goes back to the in the clouds and comes back. Renewable, but we should not waste water because it is renewable. But time is a non-renewable resource. Once a moment is gone, moment is gone. Pratyāyanti gataḥ punarna divasa kalo jagad bhakshakaḥ. Gataḥ divasa na punah pratyāyanti, Shankaracharya says. Those days which are gone, gataḥ divasaḥ punah na pratyāyanti, they will never come back. 3rd August 2022, if it, end of the day, is gone. 3rd August will come in the next year, 2023, but this 2022, 3rd August is gone forever, never come back. So time is a very precious resource. That's why we have to perform all actions in the most appropriate manner. Sorry, that's such action not done in a proper attitude is called asat, not useful, waste of time. So all actions have to be done by saying Om Tat Sat with Shraddha, with total faith in the Lord, in the words of the scriptures, in the words of the teacher, as you saw before, and all actions have to be done with a proper attitude as an offering to the divine, as worship, as offering, not with a selfish motive. Then our life will be fruitful and we are moving closer to God. Every action we do is an opportunity to move closer to God. If you look at it, that perform every action that way. That's the essence of this instruction. Ashraddhaya hutam dattam tapastaptam kritam chayat. What is sacrificed, given or as a gift, performed as penance or done without faith in God. Ashraddhaya. Without faith in is said, Arjuna, to be non-asat. Such action is asat, not useful. It is effective neither here nor hereafter. Such an action done with the improper attitude does not produce any useful, lasting result, Neither here, nor here, nor pretya. Pretya means after departing from this world, nothing good will happen. That is the concluding instruction in this chapter. So before we start chapter 18, let us do some review of a few important shlokas in 16th and 17th chapter. Two chapters we studied recently. So let us go back to shloka chapter number 16. 16. Daivasura Sampat Vibhaga Yoga. Chapter 16 was called Daivi Sampat, Asuri Sampat, and their distinction. Daiva Asura Sampat Vibhaga, division. Distinction between Daivi Sampat, Asuri Sampat. That we studied in chapter 16. In chapter 16, many of the shlokas are describing the Asuri Sampat from sloka number 4 to 18 or so. Big section of chapter 16 describes Asuri Sampat. Asuri means, Sampat means demoniac qualities that we studied, but we don't have to dwell on it too much. Better to dwell on the Daivi Sampat described in the first three shlokas. The first three shlokas of chapter 16 are the most important part of this chapter. There, Bhagavan Shri Krishna gives a list of 26 different virtues, Daivi Sampat, that each one of us have to practice. First three shlokas. Quickly we shall go through them. We studied them in detail. We go through them quickly. What are the virtues, Daivi Sampat, that we all have to practice in order to reach the goal of God realization? Essential. Let us see. Sri Bhagavan Vacha Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhihi Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi Dhanam Damascha Yajñascha Swadhyayastapa Arjavam. See, Dana, Yajna, Tapa, they come every time. Next chapter also, 18th chapter also, they will come. 18th chapter, Krishna is going to say, three things have to be done by everybody. No one should abandon these three actions. What are they? Yajñadānatapaḥkriyāḥ. Emphasize again in chapter 18, shloka 5 and 6. Now here it says, in first shloka, fearlessness, abhayam. Devotees have no fear, or should have no fear. Jnanis have no fear. For Jnanis, how do they become fearless? By saying everything as Brahman. Only Brahman is there, no second object. Everything is Brahman. There is nothing other than Brahman. Ekameva advitiyam Upanishad says. So if there is no second object, from where do we anticipate any danger? Fear comes from the second object. If I see something or somebody other than myself, then that's the source of fear. Dvitiyadvaibhayam bhavati. Dvitiya means second one. From that fear comes. Upanishad, Pravartante Upanishad says. The Jnani says everything only Brahman is there. There is no second thing. I am the Brahman. Everything is Brahman. No fear. That is Jnani's position. Jnani also disengages from attachment to body and mind. I am not the body, I am not the mind. That's the starting position of a Jnani. Maintains it throughout, consistently. That is Jnani's jnana, the path of jnana. Jnana marga, not the body, but I am Brahman. I am Brahmasmi. So whatever happens, good or bad happens to body mind only, not to the Atman. So if good or bad happens to body mind, I am not concerned about it. I am not the body mind. So I am Atman, nothing happens to me. That is Jnani's position. This is explained in the Gita, 2nd chapter. How a Jnani becomes free from fear of any loss or danger to the body and mind. All suffering comes only to body mind. Atman remains unaffected. I am the Atman, so nothing affects me. How to practice this one? Nice example is given in the 2nd chapter, shloka 22. There, Bhagavan describes the body mind, compares it to the garment we are wearing. I am not the garment, I am wearing the garment. I don't say I am the shirt, I am the chadar. I am wearing it. It's separate from me. I am distancing myself from this one. So whatever happens to this does not affect me. If it is painted green, I don't become green. If it is cut in two pieces, I don't get cut into two pieces. It happens to it. Jnani said, I am not the embodiment. Whatever happens to the embodiment, I am not concerned with it. 222. Theory says body and mind are like the garment. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grannati naro parani tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samnyati navani dehi. If this body becomes old, dies, cannot function anymore, is cast aside, another body is taken if necessary. Just like changing the cloth. So Jnani is fearless. Jnani also says, let the body, whatever happens to it, I am not affected by it. Gives an example. This is Nirkachudamani. Here the shloka comes. Jalevapi sthalevapi lotatu esha jadatmakaha naham vilipyeta dharmaihi nabadharmair gata dharmair nabho yatha. Just imagine there is a pot, earthen pot, 1 gallon capacity. It is empty, space is in it. Now the space in the pot is not affected whatever happens to the pot. If the pot is painted yellow, space does not become yellow. It remains colorless, there is no color. So space in this pot remains unaffected regardless of what happened to the pot. In the same way, I am the Atman, present in the body, apparently. Whatever happens to the body, the container, does not affect me, the content. I am the Atman. Jalevapi lotatu, let the body fall in the water. Sthalevapi lotatu, may it fall on the ground, anywhere in the forest, doesn't matter to me. Tad dharmai, by the condition status of the body, mind, aham navilipye, I am unaffected, I am touched, I am untouched. I am the Atman. So, Jnani becomes fearless that way, abhayam. A devotee becomes free from fear by surrendering one's life to God. My whole life is surrendered to Him. He is guiding me, taking care of me every step of the way. He is my Lord, He is my shepherd, He is protecting me. Why should I fear? So the Lord has promised several times in Gita and other places that He will take care of me if I am devoted to Him. 9:22. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam mahamyaham. The Lord has said, I will protect. Yoga means He shall provide what I need, devotee needs. Yoga means provision of things that we need, that we don't have. Apraptasya prapanam yoga. And kshema means protecting what we have. Both He has promised He will do. Yogakshemam mahami. Then why should I worry? He's taking care of me. Even when I'm sleeping, He's taking care of me. Bhakta's attitude, no fear. In either case, abhayam, a devotee or a jnani, seeker of God, should practice fearlessness. Unlike these other qualities, satataṃ shuddhi, purification of the mind, jnana yoga vyavasthitihi, persistence in the practice of jnana yoga. I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm the Atman. Persistently keeping that thought in the mind. Dhanam, charity, comes everywhere. Damaha, control of sense organs. Yajña, doing all actions as sacrifice. Yajña. Swadhyaya, daily study of scriptures. Tapaha, austerity. Yajñadānatapaḥkriyāḥ come everywhere, ubiquitous. Arjavam, straightforwardness. So these are all Daivi Sampat, described in the first 3 shlokas of chapter 16. Second shloka, ahimsa, non-violence. Satyam, truthfulness. Akrodha, absence of anger, always remaining peaceful. In spite of provocation, not becoming angry. Akrodha, tyagaha, renunciation. In the next chapter, in the earlier shloka, Bhagavan is going to describe what is tyaga. Sarva karma phala tyagam, tyagam prahur vichakshanaha. Tyaga means dedicating the fruits of all our actions. Sarva karma phala tyagam. Karma should not be given up. Not karma tyaga, but karma phala tyaga. That's emphasized in the next chapter. So that is tyaga. Not becoming attached to fruits of all our action, but action has to be done. That will study again, it will come later. Tyagaha shantihi, maintaining a peaceful attitude all the time. Apaishvanam, not complaining, not speaking ill of others in their absence. Daya, compassion towards all beings, animals, plants, other beings, to be compassionate. Daya, bhuteshu, in all the beings. Daya, aloliptvam, non-covetousness. Mardamam, gentleness, mridu, not being harsh in our actions and speech. Hri means modesty, not pride, but modesty. Achapalam means dignity, not making unnecessary movements, wasting time and energy, conserving energy by preventing unnecessary actions and movements, and directing that energy and time towards God. Achapalam, sloka number 3. Tejaha means energy, vitality. Kshama, Kshama means forgiveness or forbearance. Whatever difficulty comes, bearing it calmly without complaining, that is Kshama. Titiksha also it is called. Dhritihi, Dhriti means willpower, steadiness in our spiritual practice, anything. You should not be unsteady, doing something and then stopping it, some obstruction come, not like that. Persisting in our actions with steadiness, dhriti. Shaucham, purity, both internal and external. Adroha, no hatred towards any being. Na atimanita, not pride, self-respect. Oh, I'm an important person. Everybody should show respect to me. Not that attitude, humility. Bhavanti sampadam daivim abhijatasya parata. If you had all these things listed here in 3 slokas, 26 virtues are there. These are the 3 slokas we have to concentrate on. Then sloka number 4 onwards, in chapter 16, those are all description of Asuri Sampat. We don't have to worry much about them. For example, says sloka number 4, Dambaha, Darpaha, Atimanasya, Krodhaha, anger, pride, ostentation, Ajnanam, ignorance. All these are daily Asuri Sampat. So we studied them once, and that's enough. We should stay away from them. Instead, focus on Daivi Sampat, first 3 slokas. All these things, a lot of slokas are 11, from 4 to 13, 14, 15, all Asuri Sampat. 16, and until 18. Ankaram, Balam, Darpam, Kamam, Krodham, all these are Asuri Sampat. Then 19, Bhagavan says, those people with Asuri Sampat, their karma will catch up with them sooner or later. There is a sloka 19 in chapter 16. Bhagavan says, Kanaham Dushatah Kruran Samsareshu Naradhaman Kshapami Ajasrama Shubhan Asuri Shveva Yonishu. If a person does all Asuri activities, improper, cruel actions, adharmic action, what happens? He will be born in a very low kind of birth. He says, Ausrishveva Yonishu Kshipami. I throw them in the lower birth. As an animal or even as a human being in the lowest category. Some people are there, they have no opportunity for progress. They are born in such unfavorable circumstances, human beings, still unable to make any progress, either in this life, worldly life, or in spiritual life. What such human life is a waste of time. But as human birth, or maybe born as an animal, nothing happens. So that is the consequence of engaging in Asri Sampat. That's a warning, caution the Lord is giving us. Then in the 21st sloka, chapter 16, 3 things are highlighted again, Asuri Sampat. 3 things, 3 Asuri Sampat, among many that are mentioned, they are to be avoided at all costs. What are they? Kama, Krodha, Lobha. They kill us. Trividam Narakasyedam Dvaram Nashanam Atmanaha, 21 and 16. Narakasya trividam dvaram. Naraka means a place of suffering. Naraka can be here in the same world. You don't have to go to some geographically separate Naraka. It is right here. So much suffering you can see all around for them. So if you do three things, will end up in the place of suffering. Three gateways to Naraka. Trividam Narakasya dvaram. What are they? Kamaha, Krodaha, Tatha, Lobaha. Uncontrolled adharmic desire, Kama, anger, Krodha, Tatha, Lobha, greed. Greed for money, greed for wealth, greed for power, position. Take the person to the lowest level. So we should carefully, at all cost, stay away from these three defects. Asri Sampat, Kama, Krodha, Lobha. So it is difficult to control Kama, Krodha. We have to achieve it. By the grace of God, seeking the grace of God, repeating God's name, reminding ourselves of the goal of life, and reminding us of the precious time resource we have. We should not waste even one moment in engaging in Kama Krodha Labha. That much loss we will incur. In the Narada Bhakti Sutra, which we are studying on Monday mornings, Narada says, Kshanardamepi vyartham nanayet. Kshanarda means even half a second should not be wasted in unnecessary worldly talk, activities, useless activities, Kama Krodha Labha. That much loss. Irreparable loss. If you lose 1 second, it cannot be repaired, cannot be restored. So we have to stay away, strive hard to stay away from the Asri Sampat, Kama Krodha Labha. Tasmādomityudāhṛtya tyajet. Therefore, these three things have to be given up. That is the instruction in 21:16. Then the other instruction before we conclude, last sloka that has come so many times. Any action that we do, yajñadānatapaḥkriyāḥ or any other action, even our secular activities, working in the office, workplace, bank or school or clinic or college or wherever, government office or business, wherever we work, that work also has to be done with this sattvic attitude. Saying Om Tat Sat should be offered to divine, becomes a holy action. Even a secular action becomes a spiritual activity if it is done as a spiritual activity, saying Om Tat Sat, done as worship, as offering to God. That also helps us to make spiritual progress. You may be working in a bank as a teller or a clerk in a government office as some other profession as a doctor or a teacher. That if that activity is done as worship of God, offering to God, that becomes spiritual activity. Helps us to make spiritual progress. So every work that we are required to do, accepting nishadha karma, prohibited action like cheating, lying, that we should not do. Accepting that any action that we do, either in the secular context or in a spiritual context, has to be done as a spiritual activity, as offering to God. Then becomes worship, takes us closer to God. That is the last instruction. How to do this one? Shastradi Pramana. Last sloka, 24, chapter 16. Tasmāt shastram pramanam te karya vyavasthitau jnatva shastra vidhānoktāḥ karma kartamighārhasi. Ascertaining what is the proper way to do any action from the Shastra, scriptures, and knowing what to do, what not to do from the scriptures, a person has to do all actions in this life. That is the concluding instruction, chapter 16. Next time we will do a few more 17 chapter slokas and then go to chapter 18, last chapter. Moksha Sannyasa Yoga, very important chapter. Chapter 18 is in a way summary of all the remaining 17 chapters. Contains the essential teachings of all the earlier chapters. We'll start that one next time. So until then, you all of you stay well. I shall say the closing prayer now. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Thank you all. Stay well. And God willing, we shall see you next week. Namaskar. Kamalama from Houston, Murthy Garu, some other people, Sadashiva, they all send their greetings. Thank you all very much. Nirupama, Lakshmikantam, wow, that's very nice. Nice to hear from you. Very nice. All of you stay well. Namaskar. End stream.
I'm leaving for India on Sunday, so when I come back to look after my mother, when I come back, it's
Please come. Have a safe trip. Namaskar.